Recording in progress.
There we go. That. Share that. Now you should be in business. You say so? What we've been waiting for.
So with all the Board of Public Utilities Board of Directors workshop meeting in order, Nikki, please note the roll. Comments? Seeing none, I'll transfer to you, Jeff, for the utility service discussion.
Yes, thank you. And we'll try to be brief. So just want to kind of come through kind of a timeline, just a kind of an agenda of what we want to kind of go forward. Starting off with just the timeline of what rest of my job duties are and what I have. AMP actually provided me a couple slides from, just so you guys are aware of the challenges facing public power. I think most of these you've heard before. And then kind of going into, we got a sample job descriptions I sent up to you. We did some search options and then some alternatives, some interview suggestions. And so that's kind of what we're going to go through. So we're going to go through relatively quick so we can kind of see what's happening. So first of all, me. So my official start date with the new company is October 25th. Okay. So at that time, I will be working 40 hours for them. I will still be working time here but I'll still be full-time here. So whether PTO or anything else, as you can see in the bottom, I still have over 11 weeks of vacation. I really didn't take any time off this year. So throughout the rest of the year, these are the items that I will make sure that I am attending. So November 3rd board meeting, the agency board meeting, and of which you can say, no, get back, we don't want you to attend, whatever you want to do. I am perfectly fine with whatever, because it's your board, not me. This is just what I'm offering. If you don't like it, please tell me, and please be honest. So basically covering the meetings through the end of the year, unknown if I really need to go to the December 9th and 10th board meeting. Jim is the alternate on the AMP board meeting, so it's not like you're not getting represented or the agency is not being represented, because you will still have representation. I am not attending the October meeting just because it's so much travel for a 6-hour meeting to travel 2 days. It just wasn't worth it. Jim is considering going, but as an alternate, he could. So right now, those are kind of like my final commitments that I kind of laid out to you the first time that I'll make sure that I do. So with that being said, that doesn't mean I'm just going to go to those and nothing else. My current schedule is I work early, done early. I'll be in here nights, weekends, just like I kind of always have been. So you're still getting, work out of me. I've been keeping track every hour so that people, if they question what I did do, you can come in and I have a folder. Nikki has it just because I want total transparency. So I don't want somebody to think, well, you didn't work these hours. I have them documented. I have what I did. So if you can see them at any time, what it is. So eventually what will happen, so my PTO balance will start dropping and the number of hours will we'll still make 40, so I'm still full-time, would be kind of what I'm considering now. Kind of sort of, it can go longer, it can go whatever. Right now, would like my last official full-time day to be December 31st on the books. And then after that, whatever you guys want from me, I'll be glad to continue doing whatever, because that was my commitment. I know I did this to myself. I don't want to do it in perpetuity, but we'll continue to make sure that, the board packages are around, summarize things. We've got great superintendents. It's not like I'm needed for the day-to-day operations. It's just more of the collection point. I'm the aggregator to move things forward. So, and that is however it longs to be. Whether that's for the interview sessions or whether you want me, and I wrote at the bottom, I will continue to be as involved or not as involved as you guys so choose. I know there's sometimes when somebody says they're leaving, they says, nope, they push them to the side, and I'm totally good with whatever you decide. You're the board member. But we'll continue to work, if I have to come in at nights, if I can do whatever. The only thing is after that day, because I have to at some point, I don't want to be double insured. So that's really why I kind of selected that date. Well, I'll start my insurance with the new company January 1. And then, but it can, contract basis on it, yeah, just pay me my hourly rate, no benefits, just a flat hourly rate. And then at that time, it could go longer because I still would have more vacation time that could be down, or because you're paying me anyway, because my time that I have on my book, so you might as well use me while you can. So the time I have on the books is going to last, technically it would go almost to end of January, I think, depending on how the schedule works out. So it could go longer, but I really just would prefer it for benefits, and that just makes things easier. So only if you guys are okay with it. If you guys aren't, then I'm not either. Be glad to help with transition assistance, any of those type of things, but that would just be like an hourly basis, part-time employee, you know, and as you guys see fit, you know, or, you know, again, and this is one of those things, if I call, I'm not writing down 5 minutes for a phone call. This is if I have to work a block of hours. I will always answer phone calls even 10 months from now. So whatever somebody needs, that will never be an issue. So just if you're asking me to do a task that's going to require significant time, I feel it's only fair that I do. But if Monday, Tuesday questions from any staff, I will always take those calls. So again, and just covering these meetings, like I said, that's totally up to you guys when you want to cut me off or you feel, hey, this is acceptable, whatever you guys want me to do. So there's kind of one thing that needs to kind of just be kind of a general consensus on as well. So these are some questions from AMP and just kind of laying these out. I just received this late today. Just take a couple seconds to read it and just let me know. But these are just challenges that why there's so much troubles. Right now, there is going to probably be 7 directors that will be open either now or in a very short time in the state of Michigan. So it is one of those things that is taking some time, and it is, you know, the industry is changing. And a lot of what AMP is doing is they're trying to say, hey, is it possible that they can fill a need in this space? Is it a matter of, can they help with workforce? Can they help, whether it's a small municipal or large municipal, when vacancies exist, can they step up and handle some of that, even from an engineering standpoint or from a more of an overall basis? So they don't do it now, but it's one of the things, the conversations that they're having with their people and their executive management team, because they see the need coming. So again, this talks about workforce, and again, and I will send this back out to you when you're done, so you'll have a copy of this presentation. And again, the changing customers, you know, everybody's different. You know, Jim, Andrew, and I were already feeling it from our large industrials. It's different than it was even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Everybody has, you know, they want demand response. They want these things. It's going to drastically change. And are we prepared or staffed up? Do we have, you know, because it is very technical and very detailed type of information. We're probably going to need somebody here, but it is one of those things that is going to definitely change over the next couple of years. So again, decarbonation, decentralization, you know, municipal electrics, you know, Consumers doesn't have a utility director in every town, you know, they're regionally based. Is that something that AMP can play, or MPPA in that kind of that same space? We're having some internal discussions about how can Clinton, Hillsdale, Marshall all work together. Could we get along with, and kind of like the schools, you know, why is there 7 or whatever? And this is the Hillsdale County, an example. There's like 10 school districts in Hillsdale County. Do they all need a superintendent, or could they consolidate? So we're kind of going down that path a little bit.
What does that link to with the current convert we're in with Clinton and Marshall and
really,
Hillsdale, and
really probably
break that up?
Well, it really, no, that will still stay in place, just even on paper, but it's more along the lines that might be the conduit, of which that person, somebody's either hired from, and then we just do management contracts. So we do it all the time anyway, but it would be more of like, they would be the conduit as to how these things get built out. So do we have somebody just on the water, wastewater side? Now we have telecoms, a little different, but everybody else has the same electric, water, wastewater. Can we consolidate? Hey, we need one guy overseeing it. Not that we won't need, you know, local boots on the ground, but there's one guy that can see this side of it and give that direction. So again, just food for thought.
We've kind of done that though, to an extent. Harold.
We have. Harold is shared by Marshall as well as Clinton now. Hillsdale would be another option. We are just now talking about Marshall needs some help with a new substation they're building. They've asked, hey, can Jim and Andrew assist with those? Those are options that we're looking at doing, and how do we best handle that? Because for everybody to have an electrical engineer, one, not everybody can afford an Andrew or Jim. We can, because we have that capability. But is that something that we can outsource and kind of make? It's kind of going back to the shared services, which Paul Beckhusen talked about.
That was the whole plan. We're giving water is doing shared services, and
Yeah.
you know, have an engineering team down there, have a safety coordinator down there.
Yeah.
And potentially even doing stuff with telecom and stuff. And
Yes.
linemen and stuff. We had talked about.
Yeah.
How far can we go with it to actually assist all the communities? Because every community has to have a safety coordinator.
They
Why,
should.
why does all 5 have to have their own? You know, we can save all these communities all this money.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, and but
60,
we also
70
want to be careful that you just don't have one person though. I would think there would need to be some sort of level where. Backup. Yeah, something, I mean, you know, you see with Jeff and all the hours he works, I mean,
Yeah.
that, you know, that's not easy.
And what we're seeing is like, so say, for instance, Harold. So Harold will go, there's somebody in Clinton that he goes talks to. So there's somebody responsible on the day-to-day operation, but there's somebody, a resource that they can go to say, hey, here it is. Talk about COVID. So everybody, instead of having, oh, okay, Harold, we want one COVID response plan. Here it is for everybody. Everybody did their own. Not the best use of resources. We could have had one response that was consistent for all 5 communities. We didn't do that, but that's the way it should have been if we're working smarter and harder together. Everybody's right now, things are a little bit different than they were a couple years ago. The 4 communities, there's different leadership. Unfortunately, a lot of leadership is changing. So is this something, you know, I think people are now seeing the benefit of it, but at the time, maybe they weren't really committed to it. So I think that fell apart. And now because we're at AMP, there's no employees, so we're not like just trying to have anybody here at the agency, it's at the AMP level. So now we're getting great support from that. And so maybe it makes it a little bit easier, a little more cost, not as cost prohibitive, if you would. So again, food for thought. So I thought these were 4 slides that again, I'll share you my slide deck, and I just thought it was worth sharing for future preferences. So we talked about the job description. And so I did send it out to you last night just as a, whoops, for some reason that's not sharing. All right. Move it to the other screen. To drag it over that way. Okay, gotcha. All right, got it. See, I can do this. So a lot of it, and this is, you know, I want to just put this in front of you. If anybody had any major comments, we're not going to read it here. It's your typical generic, you know, job description. Just try to feel what the highlights were. We talk a little bit about the community, and then we go into, which I won't bore you with any of these things, but then we get down in the skill sets. This is your traditional, hey, what are you doing? This mirrors what Marshall has just put out. It mirrors what other people are doing, but it lays out the job summary and then lays out the responsibility. But you've been provided this. If you have any comments or things that you want to see, we did go over it, make sure it covered the majority of the you know, it has, hey, you've done union negotiations, you've done the accounting or whatever you guys want. So again, this is my thoughts only for you guys to say yay or nay, is to get this out. We are kind of ready to send it out, and then you can see who is interested or not interested as one option of doing it. And again, not to belabor the point, but it just goes through the whole thing. We'd probably have them, oh, there's my mouse. We'll probably have that go back to, at the end, probably go to Nikki. And again, it's your typical traditional, hey, how we do it. You know, I don't know why we asked for a valid driver's license, but I guess you can find somebody who isn't qualified. So that's kind of one of those things.
I don't know.
Yeah, they don't have it. Yeah. So anyway, so I think those are some things that we would probably get rid of at some point. So getting back, you know, this is going to be a desirable position, only because it is, we're one of the 5 largest, it might be 6. I didn't quite look up the exact numbers. We might be even higher. Largest municipal electric in the state of Michigan. There's obviously Holland, there's obviously Lansing Board, like then there's Zealand, Grand Haven, and us. We're all kind of fighting in that same space a little bit. And I didn't go up to see the most recent statistics. So we will get, we've already gotten some resumes. There are people in the skills, there's internal and external candidates. So the key skill sets that I think are needed, some leadership experience, the financial acumen or technical skills, both if possible. As you know, I actually had a financial background. I did not have the technical background. However, my background is different because I kind of grew up in the industry, if you will, having started as a finance director. And again, previous experience, you know, everybody has a different background. So depending whether it's coming from a consulting background or somebody who's been in the industry. So I think that would be helpful step in if you go outside the organization. Internal is a different discussion. So, so again, just trying to be brief. Now go down. All right. So obviously we can do the traditional, which is kind of why I showed you a job description put out and then see who's interested. That is one option, and then another is an alternative option. So we're going to cover both of those next. So we obviously have internal candidates and external candidates. We would obviously advertise in the following trade associations with the MMEA. You know, those are the typical ones that you had. As I mentioned, 6, possibly 7, depending on a couple of retirements, are open and looking for directors now. I do know from talking to Sturgis and the city of Portland, which what they did. Well, actually, I'm going to jump to that actually. So the question is, how do you want to, you know, I don't know if we would need a national search person at this point. However, that is definitely your call. The MML does offer executive recruiting services. They are looking for a city manager for the city of Marshall right now. They did hire the MML to do them. Brent Henry, who is a former Michigan Public Power Association member, he's doing some contractual stuff. He actually worked with the city of Portland. He's doing some contractual stuff for Sturgis as well as Portland right now to kind of get them through whatever, you know, they're wanting to do. The city of Lowell, all they did was they put out an ad. They received a feedback. They put it out in the American Public Power Association, and they found their director, Charlie West, just went through an APPA ad. They didn't hire a national recruiter. So again, I think we have enough to look to have here. We're going to talk about relocation later, but it is one of those things where.
And it just looking at national recruiter, it's approximately about 25% cost, 25%.
Okay. So then we talked about the alternative options. One is you could hire an interim director. You know, there's a director for hire. I mentioned what Sturgis is doing. Brent Henry's working for them. You know, technically you're kind of doing that a little bit with me for the next couple months. Did that continue? Not in perpetuity. So, but again, there's discussions that AMP is having, and they're having a meeting tomorrow. They met with the village that they're one of the members last night for the exact same reason. They can't find somebody to take that spot. It's not in the best location.
AMP's not set up yet.
AMP could handle it with current resources for a period of time, they're saying, but they definitely would not want, if they would do it long term, and they would start off, it's kind of like the chicken or egg. You don't staff up because you don't have clients, so you got to have clients before you staff up. So just talking with Paul, he said that they could do something internally for the short term. Long term, they would have to do some different reorganizations and kind of see how they want to move that forward and see if they want to continue to offer that services. So, you know, right now, neither the AMP nor the MPPA offer recruiting services. It is something that they're all talking about because of these vacancies that are coming up, and you know, it's getting harder and harder for people to join the public sector, especially in the private, coming from the private sector into the public sector, especially when you see the challenges that are forthcoming or coming down the road. So there's definitely a level of expertise that is going to be needed down the road. So again, so there's and there's pros and cons. If you internal, known quantities, external, you know, you met them for an hour in an interview. So it's better just to go with the internal candidate. So obviously, you know, there's options there as well. I did not talk with Brent Henry unless you guys wanted, but he was kind of helping Portland with their search. He Lowell did their own, but he helped Portland and then basically said, hey, why don't I just do it on a contractor basis? So he spends 1 day a week in Portland now and 1 day a week in Sturgis now. So that's the amount of time that he is working on both sides. I think he is mostly on the electric side. We're a little different animal, not necessarily because of water, wastewater, but because of the telecommunications. Again, my timing for this is still terrible because we're still in that kickoff phase for the fiber. So would love to see that project through. So yeah, okay. I can kill myself if you want. That's what I'll do. So, so that's kind of, those are just alternate options. And again, purpose of this meeting was not for me to do all the talking. So I'm gonna turn it over to you guys in a while. Then you guys can talk about pros and cons of what you guys want to do.
So,
Oh, yeah.
question?
Sure.
So you said like there's
67 openings throughout the state.
Mhm.
Give me something to compare that to, because last summer there was 100 openings throughout the state for superintendents.
Yep.
So we've got 560 some districts. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So here's scale. There's only 40 municipal electrics in the entire state of Michigan, including the UP. There are 26 municipal electrics in the lower Michigan, of which we would be another 5. So we would be 31 lower peninsula municipal electric companies, if you would use that term. So the scale is we're leaving 7 out of, and I guess one of them UP, 7 out of 40 would be kind of a ballpark. Now, again, you have lots of people in the IOU and co-ops that know the power industry. So, so I know when we hired Jim, but we take you 2 years to find Jim. So I think it's kind of how long that took. I don't think that would take this long, but those are options. And that's what you pay me for, is to provide you options, unless you wasn't doing my job. So just some interview suggestions. Again, I will do whatever you guys tell me to do. Would definitely try to avoid quorum for initial interview. So probably, and I think, Chris, you had mentioned you and Travis, and I know you had Keith. It's up to you guys if you want to say the mayor, myself, or whoever else you want. We just can't have a quorum. And the reason you don't do that is because some of these people have high profile jobs. They don't want to have their name and find out they're not in the top 10. So unless, that committee will be key to do the interviews. And so the more people you have on that committee, it just makes, when you make it public, I think you do that when you maybe get down to top 3 or top 2, or if you got one
That's
candidate.
what I was going to suggest. It's not doing an initial one as it gets closer down to the top candidates.
Right. Yeah, I think there could be reporting back to the board about, hey, how many people have applied,
absolutely.
that can be done.
Yeah.
But I just don't think I would want to release names, because that could be harmful for them in their position, or find out that they didn't get the job, but yet they lose their job.
Right.
So, because somebody finds out. So
Absolutely.
they do a lot, and I know they do the same thing in school superintendents,
we have to do ours.
you do, yeah, we don't have to. City managers usually are quiet till they get to the top 3. The county just did 911. They had the top 5, I think. You were involved in it. Whatever.
Right, you can request confidentiality up to the point of viewing reviews.
Yeah,
She has another meeting, so.
yeah, gotcha.
But you can get to that pool that you're talking about, you get to that pool confidentially.
Yeah.
Until you're ready.
Yeah, so that's kind of, so we're in that same boat. So again, just finishing my slides a little bit. So I just kind of threw out, just for comparison purposes, what would be possible. We can make all the resumes due November 1st, December, do interviews, goals and offer at the January board meeting. You'd have a hiring date sometime in February. 'Cause I'm assuming if you're hiring somebody, they have a job. So if they had to leave, they're probably gonna have to give 4 to 6 weeks. So it could be February or March before you get somebody. So just want to make that a realistic conversation. So the question is, what do you want to do in the meantime? So that's one conversation for later. Obviously, compensation and relocation. And this is kind of where, everybody's kind of falling in the same boat, Sturgis's. So depending on your governance form, so we're a board function. You have 100% autonomy to pay the director whatever they want, whatever they are. You hire who you want. The council appoints the board, but from there, the council doesn't make those directions. That's in the city charter. Most communities, the BPU director is underneath the city manager. So ultimately, what usually happens is everybody, and this is why there's been a lot of changeover, everybody in these utility director positions are kind of hit the ceiling with the city manager. Well, if you're trying to compete against co-ops and IOUs who are used to getting this plus a bonus, it's hard for them to take this type of job because they have that ceiling of the city manager. We don't have that here. For the last couple of years, my salary, I actually started probably with Paul. His salary was much higher than the city manager. That's just a facts. So I didn't want anybody to get, sticker shock or anything else, but there are some different things that need to be done. Again, I make $146,000, and there's a lot of people that make way more than I do. In my comparisons, I'm probably grossly underpaid, to be quite honest. But that's not, I wasn't here to ask for more money, you know, so that was never the gig. So I think there's that, when you start comparing wherever you guys end up, but for scale, Marshall is 120 to 130, and they're actually going to put this person over top, or still report to city manager, but the city manager starting salary is going to be less than this person. So they're kind of like in the same situation we would be. So I think for so long, kind of like the city management form of government has impeded the progress when you're trying to compete against talent from IOUs and those type of things. So again, it is what it is. But again, it's just something that I wanted to make you guys aware. And then you got relocation costs. So, you know, so that is one of those things that does come up. And I think that's the end of my slide. So at this point, I really just wanted, we can go back to any slides you want, but wanted just to kind of throw it back to you guys. It's your board. I can advise, I can give you what you want, but it's really more, I don't want to say pundit to you guys, but I don't want to do anything you guys don't want me to. So I guess, you know, if I can just go back, you know, I will stay here as long as you guys need me or want me. But if you don't want me, I'm not here to be a hindrance. I'm not here to be a roadblock.
If you were here like 2 years and now you're moving on, it'd be different, but you spent what, 58 years here?
22. Yeah. Yeah. So I like I said, and again, it's one thing, we have a great staff. They really, the day-to-day stuff, I'm not needed. Nikki does an outstanding job. But again, I also know when the trash gets old, it gets thrown out. So that's me too. So anyway. Well, so if this is agreeable, I don't have to go probably the December 9th. I did want to go the 17th and 18th meeting just to kind of walk Jim through a normal meeting, because it hasn't been a normal meeting. That would be the first normal meeting we will have. So
I think that'd be nice to break the water with him and so he can meet some people. And
yeah, we took him down the last meeting and he knows several of the people, but it wasn't the normal setting for a meeting. So I will kind of target that as my last meeting. You know, the December one is kind of at your leisure. If you guys want, Jim and I we can both go that way.
That's the one in Pennsylvania.
The one in October, which I'm not attending,
that's the one.
in October. So the one in December would just be there. It's a matter of whether I want to take 2 days off to go to another meeting. So acceptable, unacceptable, and please be brutally honest. So I don't want to. Okay, so my hours during that time could probably range from 5 to 10 hours a week. It could be 5, could be 20. But I will do the time, and anybody wants to know it, it will be documented exactly.
You're doing like 15-minute increments.
No, I'm not getting quite that detailed, not that granular, but I will if you'd like me to. I just kind of record the
I don't
day.
want it to be over.
Yeah, but I will whatever you want, but I'm not gonna build, yeah, no. But until the end of the year, and I guess that's the other thing, if you guys are comfortable with my last official full-time date, because my insurance starts with the other company January 1, it can go longer than that, but I just don't want to be double insured. So I don't,
What happens to your paid time off?
it actually gets paid into my healthcare savings plan.
Okay, so it does go here.
Yeah, right.
Retirement.
Yeah, and it, so it all gets paid out, so it's not really costing anything different at this point.
So Jeff, when you talk about paid time off, skill time. So if you're here working 20 hours, then you're gonna turn in 20 hours of PTO.
Correct.
To
Yes.
start using that up,
Yes.
whatever.
And start bringing it down.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't foresee my new job's gonna require me to work as well. But there's always, sleep's overrated, so. Yeah. So and again, I work, the other company, the hours are different. So I have hours at night, come in at lunches, it's close by, so not a problem. So it sounds like approval for that anyway. Okay, and if find out it's not working, I'm a big boy. If you need to kick me to the curb at any time, I'm very comfortable with that. So I think the next question is this one for you guys. How would you like to proceed, and what direction do you want to give Nikki and I? We will get this out immediately. Do you want to throw it out there, see what we get? I turn over to you guys.
Yeah, I would say throw on the trade publication. Actually, been, ever since you announced, I actually was looking through, looking at it, because I mean, obviously, there's quite a few utilities.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah,
So, I actually saw one for Sturgis in there, but, I said, let's try that, see what happens. I mean, if we get desperate, you know, where we're just not finding quality candidates or something like that. But I think maybe we have to go these alternative and do a national search or something. Other than not spending money to do that yet, when I think we might have somebody within the region at least that we can find.
And APA is more broad as well, so that.
and we have internal candidates as well.
Right.
So
trade pub, yes, so let's get the.
we'll get that rolling.
Right, to post this internally, to get
We-
official
we-
resume.
We don't post it usually internally,
Yeah, I'll put it out on our website.
but we're not stopped. We'll just, everybody knows who's here. It's not like a union position. You're not required to at this point, but we will see who's interested. And then from there, I think, now the second part of that question, and they can be all, I think, again, not telling anybody what to do, offering, you could almost work these in tandem. You want to continue to have alternate discussions. I don't think they hurt to discuss, but that's just my opinion. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Do you want me to ask Ant to consider something, or at least maybe put something in
There's
writing?
nothing wrong with getting information. I mean,
Yeah.
We don't have to, thank you very much for the info and, you know, that's it. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
My opinion of getting.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, as long as we don't have to take a commitment currently, I think
Yep.
we'll deal with that.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that's the best way.
Might be a great learning experience for us as well.
Also,
And for them a little bit, I think, because, I mean, is this something, because we are meeting, Jim and I are the meeting with Marshall and Sturgis and Hillsdale to talk about these issues of how do we do the Herald, or how do we share some more services? So that's going to continue whether I'm here or not. That will probably be pushed off more for Jim to be involved in those discussions, depending on what time they are. But again, it's nice because I do have the flexibility I can run over and do meetings if needed. So from time to time. So, all right, so I'm hearing do kind of the traditional search, but not close to listening and saying, hey, what do they have to offer?
sure, yep.
Where they would not struggle, depending on who it is they don't do a lot of water and wastewater, but they know they have to if they're going to get in that game, because all their municipalities have water and wastewater. So I think that's kind of where that lies. So, okay. So I think I'm good with those questions. So I think the next, so I think we're good there. I'm not hearing that either nobody wants to hire a recruiter.
Not at this point. No,
Okay.
I think let's put our feelers out there right now, see what
Okay.
happens, and then see what the response is. If we're not getting a good response, then we're gonna have to talk about as board members. And
Jeff had mentioned like November 1st, as a time when we would see where we're at that point.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, I think gives us at least a solid month of kind of see what's going on.
Might be a guy you be sick of snow. From south.
You never know. You never know. Actually, what?
So I'm just wondering, I mean, November 1st is a whole month.
Mhm.
Are we better off to do it for a couple of weeks and see if we're getting things? And then we can always extend it, where if somebody thinks they're not till November 1st.
Well, if we do trade publications, it's only a month
Yeah,
late.
sometimes it's only.
Yeah, we may-
Some
Some
are
are quarterly.
Some are every week. Some are every month.
That's a good valid point. We may need to extend the dates depending on when it gets published, because you can't have it, published and then do the next day.
Put it on, obviously the website and LinkedIn.
We probably won't, maybe, sometimes you get on, what's that one we did?
We do a lot of date or until filled.
Okay.
We probably stay away from like ZipRecruiter, and even though you can post it for free, you get so much stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think,
You can talk to a lot of people.
Yeah. and no offense, Don, I don't think we're gonna advertise in the Daily Reporter. So- Yeah.
600.
Yeah.
Full time.
So I think we're good on that slide. Interim directors out there. So again, I don't want to be perceived as overstaying my welcome. So again, if you're comfortable, I am, and if it becomes a burden either way, I'll be glad to walk away. I mean,
We
there's,
can reanalyze it every month with and see how it's working.
Fair enough.
But if
I'd
we,
say-
if either side feels like it's not working out, then I mean, we can.
Eat-
know our feelings.
Keep the door open.
Okay, I need to line up my healthcare. That's the only thing I need to do. So I need to kind of give them a date. So regardless, I have enough time. I can get to December already.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable at least doing that. So I don't need to sign up for a month of healthcare.
So we're saying we got a January 1, is that kind of where we're looking at? Is that?
That's
For the whole time, yes.
Yep. Whatever contract.
Okay.
It'll come faster, I would think.
That was
So,
all
November,
November,
Yeah.
crazy with everyone.
We talked about that. We talked about the AMP services, those type of things. So anything else on this side?
everything's good.
I think this pretty much determined and,
I would say so, yeah.
okay,
I mean, Travis was all for it, so. Yeah, plus it was on city council, so I think that sets a bridge between us, city council. Jeff being utility director, I think is a great asset for us to have him in there to,
your call.
yeah, he's the king on that stuff, so he should be able to pick the exact candidate.
Yeah, yeah,
And go wrong, it's his fault.
yeah. Yeah, there you go.
And of course, we want the utility director to be, have a good relationship with Keith and the city side, because obviously what we do on our board does affect the city and council, so we want to make a really good candidate that's gonna be. Use it just to work with both, so.
Do you want the mayor? Your call.
I would say at this point, let's just do us four.
Yes.
And because the more we get, the more issues I think we're gonna have, so. I think-
Scheduling becomes an issue.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like we have with Travis, we kind of have this the city on that side of it already. And then I think that kind of, I think it balances out a little bit. to be honest with you. So,
Okay,
and Keith, I did definitely appreciate you wanting to do that with us.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we just spent the whole day in a retreat talking about how we can continue to interact with a large organization.
Thank you.
Not that voting matters, but just have four, so if you ask everybody, you have two. Just putting it out there. I got Jeff, Chris, Travis, and
I don't think that. I don't think that.
Not that- and I-
that
that-
isn't
yeah.
necessarily voting.
But I'm just-
like,
No,
it's
right, I'm not
according
saying it's voting.
To this group.
Right.
Right, but just
Candidates.
putting it out there. as a-
Right. I mean, ultimately, our board would have the ultimate power to hire.
yes.
So we definitely want Keith's input. So, because that's gonna mean a lot to us as far as making sure those people too. So yeah, I don't think there's really a voting issue. It's just a matter of getting collective opinions from everybody.
And I think that just narrows it down to the point.
Well, yeah, and the more you get, go to 5, or you go to 6, you've got so many different personalities coming at this at different angles that it may be more difficult.
And I think the timeline is might be a little, to your point, might be a little quick, depending on when those publications get out. Yeah, just kind of depends, but yeah,
Well, we know which publications it would overlap, I mean, do you have an idea of when you get this, but it's gonna be, okay, this is gonna overlap in November.
we'll know, the MPPA, that's going to be kind of word of mouth. Because I'm attending the last conference for them is next Wednesday. Jim and Andrew are as well to kind of, let that out there. The Michigan Municipal League, that would be a posting. That's not really a newsletter for them.
Posting it, it's on their website.
It's,
all
yeah,
the time, so
yeah.
by the time it gets processed and
The
put on.
only, the MMEA comes out bi-weekly? Every other week, Katie sends
Is
something out?
that just the currents, isn't it?
Well, well, Katie sends out a weekly,
Oh, she sent something.
she sends something out too every other week or so, I think. AMP sends theirs out weekly.
Yeah, Friday right now.
Yeah, so there would be a little bit of advertising. Yeah. They don't really put employment on the APPA daily.
Well, I don't know if it's daily,
yeah,
maybe every other day.
yeah,
it's not-
It's not, because they only quit doing it on Tuesday through Thursday anyway, so. So that's where we'll advertise that. Again, probably won't do anything, I don't think we need to do anything local for this type of position. There,
Jeff?
Yeah,
I mean, so
Sure.
I don't know about the superintendent world, but if you're in the, whatever higher level profession, if you're in the city manager world, and you are looking, then you know where to look. I think you're gonna get the coverage for that specific profession or position. And those that might be in that professional position are gonna know where to look for equivalent positions, so.
it's a pretty small world, to be honest with you, especially the MMEA. I mean, there's only 40 of us. So people know if somebody has working for an assistant, if they wanted it, you know, again. But we also have internals as well. So leaving that out there.
What's typical relocation cost?
We've relocated, like when Charlie came here, we paid him to move here, paid for the rent, we paid for all of his expenses. Wouldn't surprise me if it's $20,000 to $30,000, if not more, especially nowadays, things have really shot up if you can even get somebody to move you. Yeah.
When I went to school, I got $5,000.
Yeah, it could be a stipend. I just throw it out there for you guys to think about, you know, because that is a cost. To see where they want to go.
If it's a big cost, they're not gonna move it, it's on their time.
Right.
I mean, I paid it cost myself, so.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, and some people it's just a stipend. Here's $5,000, you do what you want with it. Others 10. I think Charlie, we paid for a hotel for 6 months, I think. Yeah, we put him up in an apartment for a while, I recall. There you go. We could buy it, probably easier. It might be cheaper just to buy it out.
By the time it's available, there should be a house. too.
Yeah. So, I mean, you think about it, you almost could buy a house unless it's cheap.
Actually, we don't sell it.
Yeah.
It could be our executive. rental.
Exactly, right.
It could be that. The director. We've got
Good timing.
a municipal rental.
Right.
So I think that's the, you know, talking about the salary expectation. And again, what I make is irrelevant. It doesn't matter going forward. Would more money have made me stay? Probably not. Would have helped, but it wouldn't change my mind. I'm just joking. But it is one of those things where it depends on what you guys do and, you know, what level do you hire? It could be this, absolutely. So I don't think you want to turn anybody know. Internal is not probably as high as the external. I will tell you, I'm still not making anywhere near what my predecessor was making. So even in this position, so it's not uncommon, but I did want people to just be fully aware. I've talked to people in the kind of similar industry, similar positions. The problem is they're probably making what I make, but then they get a 25% bonus that comes through and stock options. So if you go outside, that's kind of the, just to be honest, what you're looking at. You get hired for somebody from ITC or for, you know, consumers or somebody of that nature. They might know the thing, but you know, it's a little bit different in the municipal world. Again, I do think AMP is a viable option. I do think it should be at least considered. And I also think the other option is, you know, internal should be an option, at least considered. And however you weigh those things. But again, the world is changing. Everybody's getting paid a lot more money. And I know it won't be popular, but it is what it is. 146.
Yeah, I kind of did some searching, actually, on Monster and stuff like that, just kind of see what was advertised out there, and it looks like anything that's even remotely close to our size, 170, 175.
Yeah.
What people are kind of posting right now, so
I-
I knew we were kind of low, but and then on the other hand, it's really hard because you're CPA, but you don't have a mechanical engineering degree like Paul did, so it's like, where do you?
Well, not my big time.
Yeah, it's like, where do you really put these people at, you know, for wages based on what they know? And you got obviously the finance side, you know that very, very well.
Yep.
But there was a learning curve, obviously, with the technical side, so.
Yep.
and
I think that's said it there, you know, compensation is, you know, based on qualifications.
Yeah, absolutely. But you look at the Paul side, who was very mechanically inclined and everything. but I don't feel he was as strong on his numbers. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you're gonna have the strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely, and every candidate will. You know, Paul was an expert in the electric industry, bar none, period. So I don't think anybody can debate that. So we had an expert, and we paid for an expert, and I was good with it. So, you know, with me, I had a strange background. I mean, people don't have the background that I had. I mean, you just don't find them. So,
I wouldn't be surprised if we get candidates that are from the electrical side, but don't have the experience on the other side. I
Sure.
mean, maybe they don't have the telecom side, or they don't have the water or wastewater side.
Yeah.
You know, and that's gonna be difficult for us as board members, because
Yeah.
that's gonna be a big, you know, learning curve for us, for them to go through while we're trying.
It's probably harder to learn the other way.
I would probably say you're probably correct. Yeah, electrical side is a lot more technical, I think, so.
More complex.
only 3 wires.
Right, oh, that's true.
How hard is it?